My dad looked the HR lady dead in the eye and said, "I have 16 witnesses, and I haven't been late in 15 years. Case 1. The defendant, a Fortune 500 company's HR department, leaning on a veteran engineer right as his pension finally came into reach. The charge? Manufacturing violations to push a loyal employee out the door before he could collect. And yeah, this one's real. Here's how his son remembers it. My father spent decades at a company that liked to call itself one of the biggest in the country. A software engineer who worked his way into management, holding patents that had saved the place millions. He was closing in on retirement, right on the doorstep of his pension, when things turned ugly out of nowhere. And it wasn't just him. He noticed the same thing happening to other longtime employees the second they got close to that same milestone. HR called him in first over his time clock. They said his records didn't add up, that he wasn't badging in and out when he claimed to be. My father is an engineer down to his bones, detail-oriented, methodical. He didn't argue, he just asked them to prove it. Keep that footage claim in mind. A week later, they came back with nothing. So he told them exactly why. For the past 15 years, he'd also been driving the company's own carpool bus, the one that shuttled employees in from a city 40 miles out. Every single morning, 16 coworkers climbed aboard and watched him badge in, right on time, for a decade and a half. 16 witnesses. Write that down. HR regrouped. A week later, they had a new charge. He'd let someone into the building without badging them in. A real security violation, they said. He asked to see it. What they showed him was footage of him holding a door open for his best friend of 35 years, a man who'd also worked there since the 70s, who'd lost a foot to complications from diabetes, and who now used a wheelchair. Watch who else used that door. Here's the part HR didn't know. My father had already sat down for lunch with the head of security weeks earlier, told him flat out that the company was trying to push him out before his pension hit, and asked to see the footage for himself. He already had his own copy. Remember that. So when HR tried to fire him over the door, he didn't fight it. He said, "Fine, fire me. Then fire the CEO too. And fire the woman sitting across the desk from me right now." Because the same camera had caught the CEO holding that door open for the same man in the same wheelchair. And it had caught the HR lady doing it herself. And there it is. Okay, that's how his son tells it. Stepping out of the narrator's seat, here's where I land. Before I rule, there's a real update worth hearing. The poster says the financial hit of getting pushed out before pension age was real, even if it likely wouldn't have cost his father the whole pension. And years later, his dad walked away from that job on his own terms, started his own company in retirement, and has spent his own money patenting clean water and solar technology, now looking for capital to build his first plant. Let's hear from the jury. The top comment wanted future employees to hear this story and remember it the next time loyalty gets repaid with betrayal. Another described a company running the exact same play. It got sued for age discrimination and settled by firing its entire HR leadership, one of them less than a year from their own retirement. A few pointed out the harder truth. In most of the US, you can be let go with no notice at all, contract or no contract. This one's clean. The company built a quiet system to squeeze out anyone nearing retirement, and it ran headfirst into the one engineer detail-oriented enough to document every hole in it. HR didn't get a fired employee. They got exposed on their own security footage, standing in the exact doorway they wanted to fire him for. That's what it cost them. They kept paying a man they wanted gone all the way to his pension, while he sat there holding proof of exactly how far they were willing to bend their own rules to avoid it. The comments are right there with me on this one. If your job ever tried to quietly push you out before you could collect what you'd actually earned, I want to hear it. Tell me your story in the comments. And if you want a seat on the jury for the next case, go ahead and subscribe. I hand down a fresh verdict every week. A quick like helps more people find the courtroom. Case 2. I set a box down on her back porch, looked up through the screen door, and there she was, on the couch, with the man she'd introduced to me as a lifelong friend. The defendant, a girlfriend of 4 years who decided a cancer diagnosis was a deal breaker and picked a text message to say so. We'd been together 4 years, both raising daughters, both building toward one life. She'd just been diagnosed with a progressive neurological disease, and we were designing a wheelchair-accessible house to grow old in together. While we finalized those drawings, I started fixing up her place. Landscaping, construction, tens of thousands of dollars of my own work, all billed properly through my business, all under one agreement. She'd pay me back when the house sold. I never pushed. We were getting married. What was the rush? Then I got sick. Really sick. A biopsy found a tumor the size of a golf ball in my stomach, and chemo started not long after. She leaned in at first. More nights at my place than hers, driving me to treatment, the kids together every weekend. Then I made one practical suggestion. Sell a house. Move in together. Let my insurance carry us through. That's when everything changed. The visits stopped. Her daughter stopped coming around. Excuses piled up where she used to be. And then the text landed, the one I still remember word for word. She loved me, but she couldn't see herself caring for someone this sick long term. So we were done. In a text. I tried to take it like an adult. I packed her things myself, drove them to her house the next day, timed it so we wouldn't have to speak. I carried a box around to her back porch, and that's when I saw her, on her couch, with the lifelong friend I'd shared vacations and dinners with. I never said a word about it. I just texted her where to find the rest of her things and left. Months later, his ex-girlfriend told me the truth. They'd been sleeping together since we were finishing the house drawings, since before the diagnosis conversation ever happened. File that away. Once I was through treatment, I was cleaning out old paperwork when I found it. The folder of invoices for every project I'd ever done on her house. Over $30,000, completely unpaid, sitting there the whole time. I handed it to my attorney and filed a lien, right as she was quietly preparing to sell. With over 1.5 years of interest stacked on top, and the sale agreement we'd signed years earlier, she walked away from her own home with barely enough to matter. She lost the new house, lost her job, and ended up moving in with her daughter's family, on disability, in the wheelchair we'd once designed a house around together. A year or so later, I ran into her. She looked decades older than she was. We spoke for maybe a minute, and I moved on with my day. Her daughter called soon after, hoping we could all reconnect. Then the ex called herself, apologizing, then asking if we could try again. I gave her back her own line, almost word for word, then asked if she remembered whose hands had actually carried that box to her porch, and I said goodbye. Okay, that's the poster story. Stepping out of the narrator's seat, here's where I land. And before I rule, worth knowing where things stand now. The poster's been cancer-free for 2 years. As for her, the disease has since put her in that wheelchair for good, in her late 40s, prognosis unclear. He also confirmed he kept the accessible features on the new build, just not the ones built specifically for her. Let's hear from the jury. The top comment couldn't get past the sheer short-sightedness of dumping a man who was ready to build her an accessible home for a friend who was cheating on his own girlfriend to do it. Another called the whole outcome poetic justice, since her friend likely vanished the moment the wheelchair became permanent, and the rekindling call was really about money, not remorse. A third just wanted to know how the poster himself came out the other side. She's the one in the wrong here, plainly. Not for leaving. People are allowed to leave. For doing it by text, mid-treatment, then lying about why while she was already sleeping with someone else. That's not walking away from a hard situation. That's abandoning someone and dressing it up as honesty. What it cost her wasn't revenge. It was her own contract, sitting in a drawer, finally getting cashed in. The house, the sale, the marriage, the job, all of it was already owed to him. He just stopped waiting to collect. And the comments are right there with me. Nobody in that thread is arguing she didn't earn it. That's karma served. So, was sending that invoice just as long overdue, or one step too far for a breakup, no matter how it happened? Cast your verdict below. That's where I'll bang the gavel for today. If you want to sit the jury next time, subscribe, and leave a like if justice felt served. See you in the next case.